Welcome to the Jali podcast. I'm your host, Melyssa Barrett. This podcast is for those who are interested in the conversation around diversity, inclusion, and equity. Each week, I'll be interviewing a guest who has something special to share or is actively part of building solutions in this space. Let's get started. Sierra Hooshiari is the founder of New Age Drinks. She launched the BrainPOP Smart Soda brand this summer at the Alice and Olivia flagship store in New York City after receiving a government grant from the New Jersey Entrepreneurship Commission. BrainPOP participated in 12 shows at New York Fashion Week this year and received positive reviews for promoting brain nutrition and the Drink to Think tagline. Sierra first explored entrepreneurship as an undergrad at Cornell University. She's won a number of awards and appeared on various talk shows to share her story on how her recovery from a severe brain injury and coma inspired BrainPOP. Sierra's passion for entrepreneurship can be seen in her role in every part of the production process, from formulation and design to canning and distribution. She wants her story to inspire others to turn adversity into triumph. So, joining me this week is Sierra Hooshiari, and she is bi-coastal, but today we are having the pleasure of being in the Mission 415 Art Gallery. And we are excited. Some of you remember Lisa Brewer, who did a podcast earlier. So this is her wonderful art gallery. But this week, we're going to chat with Sierra, who is an entrepreneur, and she's going to talk a little bit about her story, how you came to deliver this wonderful new product. This is my favorite, by the way, called BrainPOP Mojito Madness. Remember that. One of the things I wanted to just start with, Sierra, thank you so much for being here on the Jali podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm excited and so glad to have met you. And I just wanted to start out by asking you a little bit about yourself, your background. How did you even get to where you are? And then you can share maybe some exciting news later.
Well, I felt inspired to launch BrainPOP when I felt like there wasn't a drink on the market that I could relate to as a professional millennial. And I received a government grant, which helped me start this up during the pandemic.
Yeah. So you started this during the pandemic.
Yes.
So what was the idea? Like, did you were just sitting at home and saying, hey, I need to create this drink?
Well, that's a great question. So I always have had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I love launching and innovating. And I feel like every job I've had, even the corporate roles, always had some amount of innovation and entrepreneurship involved. But BrainPOP and New Age Drinks, which is the company name, was more a manifestation of the story of my brain injury, which I suffered from when I was a sophomore in college.
Oh, wow. So do you want to tell us a little bit about, because the fact that it's called BrainPOP, I'm thinking there's that connection there that really kind of helped you to say, there's not something here for me, so let me do something different.
Yes, I feel like products are getting cleaner and a little bit more educative and connecting with the public consumer, early adopter base in new ways. So there's always room in the functional beverage market for innovation and in the CPG market for innovation. I think the pandemic really highlighted that because there was a little bit of a contraction economically, and the focus was more on the pharmacy like CVS or Walgreens and CPG, consumer packaged goods industry, and healthcare, the hospital. So that kind of inspired innovation. But on the side of the can, we have this little QR code that takes you to a really entertaining little survey. My little sister, who's now 18, helped inspire the survey, and she made it very simple because this is on track to be the #1 physician beverage of choice She said to me, she said, Sissy, doctors don't want to spend time, and healthcare providers, nurses, and so on, don't want to spend time taking a survey. We really wanted to know what they thought about the product and the flavors, and we wanted a way for them to interact with us as a brand. So hopefully the survey will be entertaining.
You're just keeping it all in the family. So shout out to your sister. What's her name?
Nicole.
Nicole. Shout out to Nicole. Awesome. So then if I remember correctly, this is, I mean, you were talking about the cleanliness of it in terms of just clean living. And in terms of the ingredients and the organic, because I know it's not like an energy drink, but it really gives you some energy because of the types of ingredients that are in it.
Yes, that's correct. So the name BrainPOP was inspired by brain nutrition, brain health, and functional ingredients. It has each flavor. There are 4 flavors: Coconut Delight, Dragonberry Warrior, Mango Colada, and Mojito Madness. They all have the same functional ingredients in them, which is a botanical caffeine blend made from green tea extract, green coffee bean, and guarana. And there is a hydration component of L-creatine and different minerals like magnesium, and nutrients like vitamin D, taurine, theanine, choline, so on and so forth. And our hypothesis is that these nutrients work together cooperatively to have a very smooth caffeine edge. So they're partial energy drinks. They're definitely a brain boost, but we're kind of focusing more on, with our tagline right here, drink to think. And this idea that brain nutrition and mental health are so important. We've learned this during the pandemic more than ever. Yes. So we sort of wanted to keep that.
And I think there are a lot of people that I know that want to drink to think, but they might not be drinking this great, wonderful product. So they might be drinking during the pandemic. We saw a lot of people drinking lots of wine and other things as well. So, so it's wonderful to hear that there's such clean living here. And like I said, Mojito Madness was my favorite, although I loved Dragonberry Warrior. I tried them all because they were awesome. And mango is like my thing. So, it's like there's all of the fruit that I love. So then in terms of BrainPOP, when you say drink to think, what are some of the benefits that people get when they drink this?
Well, hopefully they get a little pop of inspiration for their own life with some kind of positivity. There are little doodles and emojis here that are intended to inspire that.
Nice.
The colors are fun and engaging, and sometimes you can even dress to match the can. Like, yes. I've sort of dressed to match your beverage flavor of choice today. They are also there's a little bit of something for everyone. So you can use them as a pre-workout, post-workout drink, midday slump kind of boost drink. Morning, I drink them in the morning and I, get a little buzz. You can use them as a mocktail or cocktail mixer in an evening setting as well.
Yes. Okay, this is fabulous. So awesome. So then I know now that you're this entrepreneur, female entrepreneur, you got a grant that kicked you off into high gear, and now you are distributing on Amazon and in other stores as well. I know you're going to make your way across the country and across the globe. Did you anticipate that you were going to be in this position? I know you said you've always been kind of entrepreneurial. So what are some of the other things that you did to come into this role?
Well, I think the story of the brain injury and the recovery really sort of fueled the mission, because this wasn't just another project that I was trying to commercialize or trying to execute for somebody else. It has a much deeper purpose. It's almost like my baby.
You want to talk about what was the injury?
I was working overseas in a Doctors Without Borders kind of capacity one summer. And I was hit by it was a semester of college, and I was hit by an intoxicated driver, and I was in a coma.
Oh my gosh.
For 4 days.
Wow. And so, and you were where at the time?
I was in South America.
So they took you somewhere, and I guess you were lucky you were with doctors.
I received great medical care. This was in Costa Rica, and we were serving Nicaraguan refugees, but I was treated, and at that time there wasn't as much knowledge on post-concussion syndrome and the kind of hematoma that I suffered from, the brain injury, and like some of the symptoms that surfaced with post-concussion syndrome and autoimmune illness. There was a lot less awareness around that. And I, was lucky. I was fortunate. I had some medical knowledge, and I was a pre-med student in undergrad. And I kind of learned how to sort of treat myself and learned how to communicate and advocate for myself along the way. I was my own case study project, I guess.
Wow, that's incredible. Like, what an amazing story. You are an amazing story.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
My gosh. So then what happened after Costa Rica? I mean, you came back here, and I mean, there's obviously been lots going on in between for you to be able, and thank God you had the knowledge that you have. I think there's a lot of people that don't have that knowledge. So, I mean, are there things that you would tell people in terms of your experience and what that process was like for you?
Well, the recovery took a very long time, and I didn't fully recover. I went back to school. I was an undergrad at Cornell, and I went back and I sort of had to relearn everything from step one. I had to learn how to write. I had to learn how to add. And, I had gone from doing like multivariable calculus and linear algebra to not really being able to remember much of anything. And every step of the way, as devastating as it was, on the one hand, on the other hand, it was incredibly fascinating. And it was just an opportunity to learn how to have more empathy and be a disciple of life, which is what any kind of event like that can be. I mean, I think in that moment, I realized I had a choice to, while the event was not within my control, the outcome and the healing process and the recovery partially was in my control. And I would be able to entertain that to the degree of patience and willingness I had. So it was almost a testament to being open-minded and trial and error.
Yeah. Well, and I love, we were here earlier and you were like, we're going to manifest this. So, I mean, you have this, kind of energy about you that really just kind of brings people in and, helps celebrate life every day. My dad used to have a saying that was every day is a day to celebrate. And he, you remind me of that because it's like, you're going to make the most of every day that you have, which is awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was able to graduate, and I graduated with honors, and it was incredibly difficult, but I won't underestimate that. But I learned a lot along the way. And, I learned how to ask for help, which was definitely something I probably wasn't as comfortable with before.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of people, including myself, that it's hard to ask for help. Let's pause for a moment. We'll be right back. So then how did you go from all of that to then deciding that you wanted to create the BrainPOP?
Well, ask and it is given. So I asked the universe to help me understand why this had happened to me, and I would be open-minded to learning from it. And every step of along the way, there was some sort of cooperative component that landed me in the direction of launching this product.
I love it.
Right now, we are in Lisa Brewer's beautiful, delightful gallery, Mission Art 415, and I've known her for nearly a decade. I've seen how she's dedicated her heart and soul to this community in the Mission District to keep the arts alive, even through the pandemic. She launched the Carlos Santana Familia mural right down the street. And being around positive people who are role models is always very beneficial and helpful. So I can't underestimate that in any way.
Yeah. Well, you definitely are one of those people that I can tell. It's like, it'll be amazing to see what you're doing in 20 years or 30 years from now. Do you have aspirations for BrainPOP in terms of what you want it to look like, or is this just the first in a line of products?
That's a great question. I think in every step of the way, the public, the consumers, our early adopters, many of who are physicians and healthcare workers, will sort of interact with BrainPOP and help create that story.
Yeah. So your background being pre-med, obviously you're very conscious about what's in it, and you talked about it being kind of physician recommended in terms of, the ingredients and what it does for your body and all of those things. So how can people take their, kind of their nutrition more seriously? And how did your background in the medical industry really help to develop this?
Well, I always read articles and journals on PubMed, and the beauty of this product is that it's very simple. And I think that one of the things that I wanted to promote with this first launch phase of BrainPOP is accessibility and availability. So, the price point is intended to be competitive and affordable to everyone. And we're in the process of working with EBT to allow BrainPOP to be affordable to even people who, want to learn more about brain health and brain nutrition, but might not be able to afford it. And, if you're using an EBT card, you'll get a partial discount. But
oh, awesome.
The formula is incredibly, I would argue that it's simple. It wasn't really about what's in it, but it's sort of like taking things out
in it.
and even the packaging is simple. And that was the point, to allow people to have a little bit of space within to sort of interact with it and, promote it or have feelings about it in their own way, shape, and form. It's I think what you eat is an individual experience.
Yeah. Well, and it's so lovely that we're in this creative space, because I feel like it is so creative. When you talked about the colors and, just kind of bringing some fun to, make sure that you can make it through the day and give yourself that little extra, but really not have to rely on coffee or another type of liquid or libation to do so. So I think I loved it. I mean, the flavor, the taste is great. I thought it was fabulous, and I was glad that I got to try it before we did this podcast, because I think people will really enjoy it. There's such a variety of flavors that I think everybody's going to enjoy some version of BrainPOP. So my daughter's really into coconut, so she's like, oh, I got to have the coconut delight. But like I said, my favorite was the mojito madness. So what else is going on with you and BrainPOP?
So we have a billboard.
There she goes.
we have a billboard on the East Coast that is going to be launched later this month. It is in Times Square. And there is a special raffle for those who locate it, take a picture with it, post on it.
I love it. So you can't say where it is then?
And, well, not exactly. That's a part of
it's in?
It's in New York City.
Okay.
On the East Coast.
In New York.
Times Square.
Okay, Times Square. Somewhere.
Yes.
Okay. Find and take a picture.
It's like a Where's Waldo moment.
Yes, exactly. That's awesome.
And Evelyn Sato, who is an incredibly beautiful person, and she completed a degree in psychology to be a psychologist, a trained psychologist, and now she is a supermodel.
Awesome.
She will be promoting and advertising in the billboard.
Oh, fantastic. I love it.
She's a dear friend. So.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I love the way you're making sure that you have family and friends involved, really supporting you. And I know they want to support you, because this is amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And it's more than anything, truly a movement, which is why it seemed relevant and appropriate to be a part of the Lilac Mural Project portfolio with Lisa Brewer on the West Coast. And Lisa has a portfolio of mural projects she's actively working on, each with a different social impact mission and value proposition. The BrainPOP mural is going to be with this light bulb and the tagline, Drink to Think. We're also going to be debuting a larger version of the mural on National Doctors Day in 2023. So stay tuned.
Fantastic. Oh, I love it. I love it. This is awesome. It feels like it's just the beginning. So the movement is not only about making sure that people have access to the product, but really also are inspired throughout with art and creativity and innovation, which you kind of have blended all with the creation of this. So that's exciting.
One sip at a time.
One step at a time.
The true value proposition is that great things happen in small steps. One sip at a time. Cheers.
Cheers. BrainPOP.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here today with Sierra and Melyssa. I'm Lisa. I'm the founder of Mission Art 415 with my husband, Randolph Bose. We want to talk about the BrainPOP mural. It is to celebrate National Doctors Day, which is actually March the 30th, 2023, to honor the physicians that actually made a difference in Sierra's life. For all the good that they do. In conjunction with that mural, which will be a BrainPOP mural in honor of the Doctor's Day, we are bringing in the San Francisco Fire Department to actually shine a light on the first responders who deal with trauma and mental illness and wellness and all the tragedy they see and all the good that they do. So it's going to be a 3-part collaboration with the doctors, with the mental wellness, with BrainPOP, and the first responders. So I just wanted to interject that. Stay tuned because we will be posting on social media. It is an open invitation to join us, and we would love to see you in the spring.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's awesome. What a great promo. She mentioned that you had some doctors that were instrumental. Do you want to celebrate them?
Well, also, I worked. I participated and worked on the pandemic response team and during the pandemic, and I sort of saw the inner workings of the hospital system and UCSF on a whole new level. As Lisa reiterated and mentioned, I think more than ever, it's time to honor physicians, healthcare workers, and first responders, especially on the West Coast. You know, our first responders deal with many natural disasters like wildfires and so on and so forth. So I'm very grateful that we get to show appreciation and gratitude.
Definitely.
As a larger, greater community.
Definitely.
For them.
Yeah. And I think, it's so interesting because I think a lot of times we think about people that are doing such wonderful things, but at the same time, the pandemic really showed us that the first responders, the people that are, making those actions every day are so important and critical. And I don't know that we appreciate them enough. So it's wonderful to see that you all are honoring, doctors and first responders and all the great work that they do. So thank you for appreciating them, and we appreciate you.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you so much. You want to say something specifically about where people can find BrainPOP? Or
I also can talk about this side panel nutrition label, which is right above the QR code. We kind of wanted to simplify nutrition for people because part of the mission behind BrainPOP and New Age Drinks is to demystify brain nutrition and make it accessible to everyone. So it's kind of simplified with little emojis here, like BrainPOP Boost, the hydration component, the vitamin D3 component, and amino acid and vitamin component. Mm-hmm. But more importantly, you can find BrainPOP on Amazon. We have an Amazon store. On Instagram, we have a Shopify store. And in some select regions and shops in 2023, Whole Foods, we're getting very close to getting into Whole Foods, and the Equinox community through Juice Press.
Fantastic.
We're also in some local venues, bar, nightlife scenes, and delis, bodegas on the East Coast.
Right. Okay. Now, and we didn't mention calories, but there's virtually very little calories in this thing, which is awesome. So, 30 calories, I was like, oh my gosh, I could have several of these. So I love it.
And only 7 grams of sugar. So
yes.
Hopefully it's keto friendly, glycemic friendly, and so on.
Yeah. No, you really have taken. So how long did it take to actually put this together? Once you received the grant and were able to kind of move forward, did it take you a couple of years or?
Not very long. I worked cooperatively with so many people and helping hands along the way. We did the formulation at Cornell Food Ventures and then our production run at the Brooklyn Cannery. So it was all local in New York and New Jersey. And I worked with different intern programs, different universities and students.
I love it. This is Women Entrepreneur Week. Who runs the world? Girls. I love it. So this is awesome. Thank you so much for being here, for doing the Jali podcast. I am like so super excited to showcase BrainPOP. And I really do hope that everybody runs out and gets this, especially whether it's for the holidays or any other time. They are really wonderful to drink.
Thank you. And thank you for having me today, Melyssa.
Thank you. Thanks for joining me on the Jali podcast. Please subscribe so you won't miss an episode. See you next week.